The emergency lights bathed the council chamber in an ominous red glow. 7 species represented, 7 voices raised in increasingly desperate tones. They had been arguing for hours. "We cannot defeat them," stated Ambassador Trell, the insectoid diplomat's mandibles clicking in agitation. "The swarm has already consumed 3 systems. Our combined fleets barely slowed their advance." Admiral Vox, a towering reptilian with scales that shimmered like oil on water, slammed a clawed fist onto the table. "Then we find another way. The evacuation ships cannot possibly relocate all our peoples in time." The holographic display at the center of the table showed the inexorable approach of the swarm, a virtually unstoppable horde of biomechanical entities that consumed everything in their path to fuel their endless expansion. "There is one option we haven't considered," said Director Elo, her luminescent skin pulsing with nervous energy. All eyes turned to the slender amphibious being, the humans. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The humans. Earth's children, the sleeping giants. "Absolutely not," hissed Council Elder Morrow, his ancient eyes narrowing. The accords were explicit. "They are to remain in stasis until their appointed awakening time. We all agreed to this." "That was before an extinction-level threat," countered Elo. "The accords have provisions for exceptional circumstances. The Galactic Cooperative had encountered humans 3 centuries ago, when Earth's first interstellar vessels had ventured beyond their solar system. What followed was a brief but terrifying conflict that demonstrated humanity's alarming capacity for both ingenuity and violence. Peace had eventually been established, but on terms that had surprised everyone. Humans, recognizing their own volatile nature and the damage they might cause to a peaceful galactic community, had proposed a solution. They would enter voluntary cryostasis for a millennium, allowing both themselves and the galaxy time to mature. A small contingent would remain awake, serving as diplomatic representatives while their species slept, dreaming of stars. "The humans' representatives have been consulted," stated Ambassador Trell. "They recommend awakening the military contingent." "Of course they would," scoffed Elder Morrow. "They've been lobbying for decades to wake their kin." "Because they foresaw something like this," said Admiral Vox quietly. "They warned us about complacency." The council members exchanged troubled glances. Humans had a reputation for pessimism that bordered on paranoia, always preparing for worst-case scenarios, always maintaining readiness for conflicts that the more evolved species had thought impossible in their enlightened age. Until the swarm had appeared. "We should vote," said Elo firmly. "The cryo facilities on Mars, Luma, and the Jovian moons can be activated remotely. We could have 10,000 human specialists awake within 48 hours. "And if they decide we're as much a threat as the swarm?" asked Elder Morrow. "Then we were doomed anyway," replied Admiral Vox grimly. The vote was taken, the decision made. Commander Alex Reed opened his eyes to the sterile white ceiling of the revival chamber. His mind was foggy, his mouth dry. The medtech hovering nearby wasn't human. "What year is it?" he rasped. "It has been 312 years since your stasis began," replied the alien. "I regret to inform you that your scheduled awakening was not due for another 688 years. Reed sat up slowly, muscles protesting despite the anti-atrophy treatments. "Emergency protocol?" "Yes, Commander. The Cooperative faces an existential threat. You and your division have been awakened to assist." Reed nodded, suppressing the surge of vindication. Humanity had insisted on maintaining military readiness, even in sleep. They had built ships, weapons, and training facilities that would remain sealed until they woke, whether on schedule or due to emergency. "How many of us are being revived?" 10,000 initially, more if needed." Reed swung his legs over the edge of the bed. "Brief me on the threat." 3 weeks later, Reed stood on the bridge of the Relentless Asterisk, a dreadnought that had waited patiently for centuries, preserved in the vacuum of a hidden asteroid base. Around him, humans moved with purpose, their training as fresh in their minds as if they'd practiced yesterday rather than centuries ago. On the view screen, representatives of the Cooperative watched with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Your strategy seems unconventional," said Admiral Vox cautiously. Reed allowed himself a thin smile. "The swarm adapts to direct attacks, so we won't attack directly. We analyzed their communication patterns and developed a virus that will fragment their hive mind. Meanwhile, specialized teams will infiltrate their processing centers using stealth tech that your scientists helped refine. The casualty projections, began Elder Morrow, are acceptable, Reed interrupted. To us, anyway. Humanity understood when we went to sleep that we might wake to fight. It's why we exist. The unspoken truth hung in the air. Humans had always been warriors, explorers, survivors. The peace-loving species of the cooperative had evolved beyond the brutal calculus of sacrifice that humans still embraced. We'll handle the swarm, Reed continued. Your people focus on evacuation and support. When this is over, we'll discuss whether we return to sleep or remain awakened. As the transmission ended, Reed's second-in-command approached. They're afraid of us, she observed. They should be, Reed replied, watching as the fleet of human vessels moved into formation. But they'll be more afraid of what happens if we fail. The ships accelerated toward the front lines, crewed by humans who had expected to sleep through centuries, but instead found themselves doing what humanity had always done best, facing the impossible and refusing to yield. Behind them, the species of the cooperative watched in awe and terror as the sleeping giants they had feared for so long now stood as their last best hope against the darkness. Some would later say that waking the humans had been an act of desperation. Others would call it an act of wisdom. The humans themselves simply called it duty.